What is up guys, Flashfire here, and today we're going to build our first competitive team for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, as the observant among you might have noticed, the games aren't actually out yet, which is why today we're going to be using exclusively Pokemon from previous games that we know are going to be available on the Galar Pokedex. The team we're going to be building today is pretty balanced in terms of composition, and it includes a lot of powerful Pokemon from previous generations that I think are going to be really strong on the Galar Pokedex. I've made a whole video talking about why a lot of these are going to be really strong, and it is linked up there for you. So make sure to watch this video and then go and check that out if you want some more explanation on some of these choices. Okay, so jumping straight into this, our main offensive core on this team is going to be a combination of Excadrill and Tyranitar. Now, Excadrill is one of the Pokemon that's on the new Pokedex that I didn't realize was going to be there, so it isn't in the video that I just mentioned, but it is absolutely going to be a huge threat. This guy's been a massive danger ever since he was released in Black and White, especially under the sand. With his Sand Rush ability, his speed doubles and just makes him even more terrifying than he already is. That massive attack stat, alongside his really strong coverage with his stab moves in Earthquake and Iron Head. A lot of the checks and counters to this guy that were present in previous generations aren't actually going to be available on the new Pokedex. Some that come to mind off the top of my head would be things like Zapdos and Landorus. They're gone. It's going to make Excadrill even stronger than it already was. In this particular case, we're going to be running this guy as a Sand Sweeper. We're also going to be adding Swords Dance just to make him that little bit more dangerous. If he can get in to the sand and get a Swords Dance up, he will be at nearly 600 speed with a 135 base attack stat with access to pretty much perfect neutral coverage and one of the best damage types in the game in ground. So for our fourth move in this guy, we're going to be going for Rapid Spin. Now, this is because I couldn't fit Hazards Removal anywhere else on the team, so it's not my first choice. However, going into the new generations, Rapid Spin has actually been buffed. Its base power has been increased to 50, and it's been given an additional effect of raising the user's speed after it's been used. So even if the Tyranitar goes down and we're not able to set the weather anymore, this guy can still be a potent setup sweeper on his own without sand assistance. There is even an argument to be made here for dropping the T-Tar, I think, and running Mold Breaker just so that you can hit those Earthquakes on things like Rotom Wash, which is still going to be an issue for this guy. In terms of item, we've gone for a Focus Sash here just to give a little bit of a margin for error in setting up that crucial Rapid Spin or Swords Dance in order to put this guy in a position to sweep through teams. Obviously, it's not ideal. If you're switching into hazards, you're going to break the Sash, but it can be really useful in specific situations. Okay, so finally we get to the EV spread here. We are just going to go for a pretty standard set. Obviously, we're going to be either at +1 speed or double speed from the sand, so we're just going to go for an Adamant Nature, all of our EVs into attack and speed. The reason that we're able to run an Adamant Nature here is that the reason that you run Jolly before was to outspeed a couple of threats that aren't going to be in the new games. For example, Scarf Greninja when sand is up, and when sand is not up, you need Jolly to outspeed Timid Heatran, Neutral Nature Kyurem. So these are things that are gone now and won't be giving Excadrill any issues. Now, as I've mentioned already, we're going to be running this guy as a Sand Sweeper, which means we need a partner for him to set up the Sandstorm. There are really two candidates in this role, and they are of course Tyranitar and Hippowdon. As we're going to be going for the most powerful team we can, we are going to be running a Tyranitar in this slot. This guy is also really useful as it provides a very strong Dark type stab, which is going to be useful later. We'll talk about that. But more importantly, as we're going to be using the Excadrill as a Sand Sweeper, we are going to be running a Smooth Rock on this guy just to give that extra couple of turns of sand. It means that we have a bit of leeway in switching out and setting up the Swords Dance in order to sweep through team. Now, I originally was running a mixed set on this guy with Ice Beam, but I realized that all of the things that you run Ice Beam for, the main culprits here being things like Garchomp and Landorus T, aren't going to be in the game, so you don't need to do that anymore. As such, I'm just going to be running a bulky, attack-invested Tyranitar here with 4 attacking moves. There's also an argument here to be made for slapping an Assault Vest on this guy. If you don't think you're going to need the full 8 turns of sand, that would absolutely be a good idea. So, in terms of moves, we're going to be obviously going for Earthquake and Stone Edge. This provides some of the best neutral coverage in the game and gives Tyranitar a lovely stab Stone Edge, which deals so much damage off that base 134 attack stat, especially with the Adamant Nature. It just gives you that little bit of extra zing and does a lot of damage. Now, originally I had Pursuit on this guy, as I think being able to trap psychic types in this generation is going to be really strong. However, Pursuit has been removed from the games. If the data mining is to be believed, which I don't really see any reason to not believe it, Pursuit's not going to be in the game, so we're going to go for Crunch instead. Now, it would have been really useful to Pursuit Trap stuff, mostly because we're going to be running a Toxapex on this team, and in order to make that thing's life as easy as possible, you want to be able to chunk out Psychic types and make sure that they can't hurt it. Unfortunately, Pursuit's not an option anymore, so we're going to have to run Crunch here. A little bit upsetting, but it is still a really powerful stab, dark move, so yeah. The final move slot here, we're going to be going for Fire Punch. I don't really have any other fire coverage on this team, and as Ferrothorn is still going to be in the game, we do have to prepare for that, and we do have to bring the coverage for it. Okay, is everyone ready for a hot take? Now, I'm not actually sure if this is an especially hot take. It might be a decidedly lukewarm take, but here we go. This next Pokemon is potentially going to be meta-defining, especially early on in Sword and Shield. That is, of course, provided that Toxapex does not get banned straight away. I am, of course, talking about Ryu Nikias. This bulky Psychic Boy is the perfect answer to Toxapex, which I think is going to be one of the most common and dangerous Pokemon in the new games. It helps a lot that Ryu Nikias is also a massive threat on its own outside of just countering Ryu Nikias. It has a couple of different sets that you can run that make it an absolutely terrifying, bulky, powerful monster, so you should definitely consider this guy when you're building teams for Sword and Shield. We're going to be running Leftovers here and a physically defensive set with a bold nature and 44 speed EVs. These speed EVs are important because they allow Ryu Nikias to outspeed Toxapex, which is the thing that it's here to check, counter, whatever. Now, the next part of the reason that it's so good against Toxapex is that we're actually going to be running Magic Guard here. Now, you might see a lot of these guys running Regenerator because obviously Regenerator is a really strong ability, but Magic Guard here is really, really good as we're going to be running a setup set and it's rather bulky. So running that Magic Guard means that you can't get hurt by things like Toxic, Burn, entry hazards, all that kind of thing. It gives you that little bit of extra survivability, especially against things like Toxapex and other bulky Pokemon that will want to chip away at you with status damage. You can just completely mitigate that by running Magic Guard, and I think it's really, really strong. So combining this ability with Calm Mind and Recover makes for an absolutely terrifying tanky mon that can deal a lot of damage if you get it set up. The attacking moves we're going to be going for here are Psychic and Focus Blast because they provide a great amount of neutral coverage, and obviously you've got that Psychic in there to hit opposing Toxapex and absolutely steamroll them. The final offensive mon on this team is going to be a Hydreigon. This guy's a Scarf user that I don't think's been seeing a lot of love recently, and now with the new decks happening, we are losing a lot of strong dragon types. I really feel like this guy can step back into the spotlight a little bit. Now, as I said, this is going to be our Scarfer. We're actually going to be running a Timid Nature with enough EVs to outspeed Como O, so 295 speed, which means we need to hit 297. This is so that we can avoid getting absolutely melted by those belly drum sets that get the speed boost and just absolutely tear through teams. I actually had a Modest Nature on here before and lost the speed tie to a Como-O, and it felt really bad. So we're going to be running Timid with just enough speed to outspeed a Como-O, and then we'll just put the extra EVs that we have left over into HP. Obviously, we're going to be maxing out that special attack stat still, as this is going to be an absolute beast of a revenge killer. Now, the moves here are pretty self-explanatory. We've got Draco Meteor on there just to nuke stuff when all the fairies are gone. We've got Dark Pulse on there because it's really spammable and stab, and it's got the potential to cinch those flinches if you're in a sticky spot. We've also got U-Turn on here. I had to fit it in somewhere on this team. It gives you so much momentum, and I really like it as a move. I feel so disadvantaged if I don't have a Volt Switch or a U-Turn user on a team, so I needed to fit it in somewhere. And then finally, we've got Fire Blast just for a little bit of extra coverage. I'm not in love with this move on here. You could potentially sub out for a lot of different things. I just think it probably provides the best coverage in this slot. Some notable mentions here would be things like Earth Power, Focus Blast, and Flash Cannon. You could also potentially chuck Defog on there if you wanted to remove Rapid Spin from Excadrill, but I'm not so sure about that one. Now, I'm sure you were all expecting this to pop up at some point, so here it is, it's Toxapex time. I've actually made a whole video about why I think this guy's going to be so absolutely broken in Sword and Shield, and if you want to check that out, I'll link it again up there. For now though, let's just talk about the set that we're running and why I think it's going to be good on this team. So if you've watched that video on Toxapex, you'll know that Regenerator is by far its best ability. It allows it to recover 30% of its max HP every time it switches out, which means that it can absolutely just tank entry hazards, scout moves on your opponent's team, and do all kinds of other fun stuff, which just makes it really annoying to deal with. We'll be running Black Sludge for a little bit of extra recovery, as well as Toxic, Haze, and Scald. Obviously, Scald is good for hitting physical attackers. You can fish for that burn. You've got Haze to stop setup sweepers from absolutely ruining you, and then the Toxic there just to deal with other bulky mons that try and switch into it because it can't really do anything with its attacking stats. We'll also be running this with a specially defensive EV spread that pairs really nicely with the Ryu Nikias that we've got earlier in the team, as well as the next Pokemon we're running, which is going to be a Clefable. So Clefable is one of those other Pokemon that's going to be incredibly powerful in Sword and Shield. It's been really strong and prevalent in the meta since X and Y when it got that fairy typing. And I don't see anything changing this generation. It's still going to be a big threat that you have to watch out for. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be running a physically defensive set on this guy, basically just to tank all those nasty fighting type hits that might come our way. One of the big ones here being Belly Drum Combo O. With this EV spread, 90% of the time you don't get 2-hit KO'd by Drain Punch at +6, and you can one-hit him with Moonblast, so that's pretty good, I think. In terms of moves here, we're basically just running this guy as a cleric. We've got the Moonblast on there because having a fairy move is good and it will still give us like decent offensive threat even if we don't have any investment. And then on top of that, we've just got Heal Bell, Soft Boiled, and Stealth Rocks, as we don't have Stealth Rocks anywhere else on the team. Obviously, we could have put them on T-Tar, but I feel like this guy will have more opportunity to get them up, as when T-Tar's in, he just wants to hit stuff. The Heal Bell's also going to be really good on hit, not especially for Ryu Nikias, but it will be great for Excadrill and Tyranitar, as we can potentially heal any burns that they pick up during the course of a game. Now, I really wanted to run this guy with Unaware just to stop any setup sweepers in their tracks. Unfortunately, something with the way that you get an Unaware Clefable means that you can't run Soft Boiled and Unaware on the same one. So if you want to run Unaware, you have to run Wish, and I'm just not about that. So we're going to be going for Magic Guard on this guy as well, which means that there's 2 Pokemon on our team that can't be affected by status or entry hazards, which is pretty good in my opinion. Okay, so there we have it. That's my first team built for Sword and Shield using only Pokemon from previous generations that we know are going to be available in the Galar Pokedex. What do you guys think? How can I improve it? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see this team in action both on the Showdown ladder and in Wi-Fi battles once the game's release, please remember to drop that sub and come back for more Pokemon content.